Well, I want to make a note here. When Sotomayor was before Congress in the hearings,
Yeah.
she said, they asked her if she thought the Second Amendment was a fundamental right. And she said yes. And then when she comes to vote on this issue, she voted against it. Is she a liar?
Yeah.
Is she lying?
I'm trying to remember the exact interchange of the way she answered it, if she gave herself any weasel.
No, she didn't.
Then she would be, if that's right. I'm trying to
She
remember
said they
exactly.
asked her if it was a fundamental
Yeah.
right, and she said, yeah, it's in there.
Well, she actually had issued a decision about arms involving nunchucks, not firearms. And that decision she issued suggested that she didn't think she did not favor a very robust interpretation of the Second Amendment, which is probably part of the reason why that question was asked in the first place. But yeah, we've got 4 justices who will happily say, "Oh, we made a mistake in District of Columbia versus Heller. This is not a fundamental. This is not an individual right. Only if you're a part member of the National Guard." So, if this doesn't underscore anything for all of you, it should underscore the importance of Senate confirmations, the importance of the senator you vote for, and the importance in presidential elections of their judicial philosophy. I mean, my first question, if I'm looking at someone who's running for the U.S. Senate, is, will you support an originalist philosophy? Originalist means that the Constitution means what it meant to the people who drafted that provision. It doesn't mean that the Constitution means whatever people in 1787 thought. Some parts of the Constitution were drafted in 1787, but some parts were drafted in 1868. Some parts were drafted were ratified in 1992, as we just described. So the ratifiers in the Texas legislature, their opinion matters as to what. So that's what originalism is. It's whatever we the people thought at the time, not what 9 unelected rogue justices think the Constitution ought to be for our own good. That's really what it is in a nutshell. I want to know that when someone is wanting to be my senator. I want to know that when someone wants my vote for president. And unfortunately, unfortunately, a lot of voters don't go to the polls thinking about that. We have to think about that. Our Constitution is to be protected. Yeah.
A senator told me that the Constitution gives the president the right to appoint whatever justice.
Well, technically, subject to consent by the Senate. But the Constitution does not impose any particular philosophy of justices. But the Constitution is based on an understanding that it means what it meant to the people who proposed it and ratified it. I mean, to come up with any other theory, put it this way: if the enumerated powers are not a finite list, and we can bend the Commerce power to mean whatever we want it to mean, then why do we have enumerated powers in the first place? Let's just say Congress shall have the power to pass good laws. If the Bill of Rights means not something specific, but the Bill of Rights means the rights that the Supreme Court justices think are good ones, well then why make a list? Why not just say the Supreme Court shall have the right to protect whatever rights they want to? The whole doctrine of a written Constitution demands that you give fidelity to what the writers and the ratifiers thought. If you have any other theory, it doesn't make sense. Why bother?
No, you got it wrong. It's just a starting point. It's a living,
Living document.
Yeah.
I have one for you.
What?
Okay. You authored your organization.
That's one of the co-authors.
Okay.
I don't want to thank Paul.
Current events is Eric Holder bringing action against the state of Arizona federal court of that action and allowing the nation of Mexico to join suit. Doesn't that directly violate the 11th Amendment?
You would think so, but there's a hitch to that. The 11th Amendment only prohibits suits for damages against the state. Suits for damages, for money damages against the states. So the 11th Amendment argument, believe me, we've looked at every possible argument. I'm consulting with the governor of Arizona. But the 11th Amendment has been interpreted to involve only suits for damages constrained.
And equity.
Well, right, but it also, you have damages. Here, let's look at it.
Races on Ontario.
Any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state or by citizens of such a foreign state.
Suit in law or equity. That means
Right.
both money and standing.
Well, in this case, it would have to be, there are two problems. It would have to be a case for damages. The other problem is there is no the plaintiffs, in some of the state, in every suit, there are 6 suits. In every suit, they have U.S. citizen plaintiffs. So that's the other element. And the other problem is standing. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, and I fight over this all the time. I say that an illegal alien should not have standing to bring any suit in the United States federal court.
Well, I don't
There's one
understand
judge.
why the nation of Mexico to join a U.S. federal action.
Right, and I agree. I mean, that should not be allowed. And the 11th Amendment at least suggests, if it's not crystal clear that that would be considered a suit in law or equity, it's still pretty clear that the framers of the 11th Amendment didn't want foreign governments bringing suits. But there's one judge, a district judge in Oklahoma, who has written a wonderful opinion. His name is Judge Payne. And he put some pain on the litigants who were illegal aliens, legally speaking, and said, no, illegal aliens do not have standing in our courts, other than to challenge the laws that declare them to be illegal, right? Because you could argue that the law making you a legal alien is unconstitutional, perhaps. But any other law, they would not have standing to challenge it. But at any rate, I agree with that decision. Unfortunately, that decision has not yet become the law of all 50 states. But the, yeah, go back.
Would you comment on just how difficult it is for a local community to support the rule of law, specifically Fremont, Nebraska?
Yeah. Fremont, Nebraska is, okay, I'll talk about Fremont, then I want to get back to the establishment real quickly, and then we'll back it up. Fremont, Nebraska is a town of about 25,000, just northwest of Omaha, and I helped them draft an ordinance that would stop employers from knowingly employing illegal aliens and would stop landlords from knowingly renting to illegal aliens. And the ordinance was drafted, and then it went to a vote of the city council, and it was a 4-4 deadlock. And then the mayor cast it as this big meeting, we held it in the high school, and the opponents of the ordinance busted all of these people, many of whom do not speak English, to sit in on a city council meeting, and the mayor cast a deciding vote against the ordinance. The people of Fremont contacted me and said, Kris, will you help us? We're going to launch an initiative petition. And we have the right in Nebraska to bring a petition, they said, and it's true. Under the Constitution, you can have a local ordinance by petition. By the way, and you can also do it at the state level. By the way, I think petitions are wonderful, and it is a travesty that Kansas, the birthplace of populism, does not have the popular initiative. That's another story. Certainly, if I were on the Secretary of State issue, if I were Secretary of State, that's one thing I would lobby for, because I think we have to have the initiative that protects our rights. So anyway, back to Fremont. So Fremont is, the citizens say, well, we want a petition for it. So they collect over 4,000 signatures, more than 1,000 in excess of what they need to call a special election. A special election is called, and it's about to be set last year in April, and then the city attorney says, oh, not so fast. We're going to file a declaratory judgment against the petitioners to stop the election from going forward until the courts have decided whether this law would be constitutional or not, whether this law to stop illegal aliens rent harboring, being harbored in apartments or working illegally, employers hiring them. And so then I had to represent the citizens of Fremont before the Dallas County District Court, arguing that they had a right to take their issue to a vote